but I met your oldest son a couple of times. And the words I would describe in just our very short few sentences of him picking up his sister is like a tenderness and sweetness. Like, definitely that he can show up and perform, and he's an athlete. But at the same time, like the way that it's very much how you come across, very, very like tender and sweet. Not that you couldn't, fight me if you needed to, but and so it comes back to that patience, right? I don't see him being timid, but I see him comfortable in his skin based on having a conversation with me. And it's like, wow, what else could I want? And I would hope the same thing if you were to talk to my oldest, who's 18 and just graduated, is that you'd find them comfortable in their skin. Like, I'm okay. I'm sad that you're leaving the house, but you're ready. And welcome. Your role as a father is critical. You are so important. The way that you embrace your fatherhood role literally will change the world. 3 nuggets that hit me from my conversation with my friend Kenji today are: 1, be naturally who you are. That is the dad your kids need. 2, mistakes are okay. Just be aware of your response. And 3, how to be deliberate in the things you say matter most. Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our craft. I'm your guide, Ned Shout, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 11 to 17, and husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 20th year of marriage. So, yep, I'm in the thick of it, and I am working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world through the way we embrace our fatherhood role. This episode is brought to you by the Adventure of Fatherhood, helping men discover their powerful fatherhood role and build their fatherhood skills. The role of the father is to serve, guide, provide, protect, and of course, find joy and have some fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my friend Kenji Sanders. Incredible conversation about the authenticity, vulnerability, the heart, the opportunity that we have as men to step into the realness, the fullness of fatherhood. Enjoy meeting my friend Kenji. For the podcast to upload. So I'll hit stop and then we'll just keep wrapping. We'll just talk chit chat till it's done. Okay.
Perfect.
All right, my friends, welcome Kenji to Fatherhood Field Notes. Kenji, how you feeling today?
Feeling great, Ned. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, brother. I'm stoked to have you on the podcast and talk fatherhood with you. So I'm going to tee this up first. The reason we're connected is your daughter and my daughter have been spending some time together. My first experience of you was really a phenomenal one. Just as father to father, my 11-year-old daughter wanted to go stay the night at your house. My wife was out of town. A lot of times in those scenarios, it's like, I've never met this family. I'm gonna, my wife and the other kid's mom are gonna be the ones to talk about this and meet and whatever. And so I had told Stella, hey, just have the dad call me, thinking there's no way in hell that some dad's gonna call me for our 11-year-old daughters to have a sleepover. Then you texted me, I don't know, whatever, within the day. And we talked for a half an hour, and I'll always remember just walking around my backyard talking. I mean, I've talked fatherhood for years, right?
Sure.
But that's such an intimate connection because, we're both wondering, hey, is my kid safe to go to your house? But a lot of times us dads don't actually talk about it because it might feel awkward to do so. But you were just super upfront. There was no feeling strange that we had this conversation. And so my first question to you is when you had your daughter come to you and say, hey, dad, would you call this guy's dad or this, my friend Stella's dad? What was in your mind? Or did this just feel, super normal just to hit me up and talk about this?
Yeah, actually, Stella said, hey, my dad would like to talk to you. And my first reaction was, great. For the same reasons that you had. I thought it was, it made a lot of sense. And I'd want the same for my daughter as well. She was going over to your house for the first time.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool that you had requested that, and yeah, that was my reaction. I was happy to talk to you, and I don't know, I can't recall another dad that has asked that before.
Mm.
So that was the first time. So I kind of perked up. I was like, cool. Um,
Yeah.
Looking forward to meeting you. And so that was my reaction. Yeah.
Dude, it kind of gives me chills in the sense that I feel as though if more dads stepped into that role, I think that there's just power in your presence. You know what I mean? So, like, I'll give you another example. Violet went on a date recently, and my rule is like, the homeboy has to call me and talk to me, even if it's just a friendly date. You know what I mean? It's not, in her big pushback was like, it feels too serious. So we came to a compromise, but I did talk to the boy before. But my whole thing with them is, he just needs to know I exist. Like, there's something different if other men know that there's a man around, right? And it doesn't mean anything. I'm not cleaning my shotgun. I'm not flexing my muscles. I just want you to know I exist. And I think if dads did that in those couple scenarios, there would be less of some of the weird shit that goes on that we allow, because men just aren't involved. And I'll just end with this last component is like, I don't remember in high school a girl's dad ever like really connecting or speaking to me ever.
Right. I think you're right on the money with that, Ned. I think your presence, the fact that a dad is reaching out, creates a presence. You let it be known. I think there's also a respect factor
100%. Yeah,
that automatically happens. It's not like, oh, somebody is watching me, or it's not an intimidation factor. It's just a respect factor.
yeah. Like when you called me, my level of respect for you just like skyrocketed, right? Because it's abnormal. And like you
Right.
said, same for you, is there's this like, oh, cool, he wants to talk to me. We're not just pushing this off to the moms, which thank God for moms, they're great. But I think we should have a little bit more role in that experience for our kids.
Absolutely. And I think these examples we're talking about now are great examples. You know, Violet on a date, our daughter's going over to someone's house, but it really like can it can play a role in our boys' lives as well.
For sure.
It really in many different scenarios and situations. Just that lesson of being involved, period, or taking that step to make a call to find out what's going on. So these are great examples we're talking about. Of course, with our daughters, we want to make sure that they're safe. But it
Man,
really
I'm glad you bring it up. I think that there's this tendency, because I've got 4 girls and a son. There's this tendency just to like protect our daughters or to consider our daughters friends and their parents. But we had a freaking big situation, a really close call here on the island with a group of people that my son was hanging out with. And it really led me to go, I need to be very in tune with those with anybody who's going to step into a leadership role, not just with my daughters, but also with my son. And that was a big eye opener, because there is this feeling like your boy's going to be fine. And so, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. All
yeah.
right, let's jump into some things about you. How old do you find yourself today?
How old do I find myself? Like a
Yeah,
number, age?
whatever you want to answer.
Middle aged man. I could say that. I was just at the chiropractor this morning, so a few things in my body are feeling, I guess my age. I've never been too tuned into the age thing, but kind of more tuned into how my body's feeling.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Mentally, so then I'm going to narrow down a couple of things. Mentally, how old do you feel?
mentally, geez, I've never had that question posed to me before. That's interesting because I don't know what it feels like to be an older age yet. So it's hard
Mm-hmm.
to gauge that. I know what it's like to be a younger age, right? Um, geez, I'm just going to say the age that I am. I probably the best answer there.
Okay. And then what about your body? So like you're a super fit dude. One, what's your secret to your fitness? And then two, how old do you feel when it comes to your body?
Yeah, I exercise. I've got a exercise regimen. Get up early, work out before work, stay pretty consistent with that. Um, I don't really tune in too much to food, but more of like when I eat my food, I'm kind of on a good, you know, my body kind of has its sweet spot per se. Um, uh, just recently, I've been having this. I don't know if it's I've been trying to figure it out. My hip, there's like a nerve there. It's there. I can feel it. It doesn't inhibit what I need to do during the day, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to figure it out because I know what it feels to feel optimum and not have any limitations. And this little thing is just nagging me. So it's so irritating, bro. It's like,
Uh,
I'm so active. And
yeah.
so, your hip, anything to do with your back, your hip, anything there, everything you do, you're feeling it. So it's there. It's not super painful, but it's just irritating.
Yeah, man. So I turned 41 in like 2 weeks, and I am realizing more and more the stretching, the dynamic stretching, the warm up, the cool down are super important. They're just boring as hell. Like it's just not fun. I don't enjoy it, but it's like if I went and did 100 burpees right now, I think I could do it easy. And I've realized like I can't. I need to like warm up and get ready. And then I did Murph with like just for fun with some CrossFit people on whatever Memorial Day, and bro, I was jacked for like 5 days. So yeah, I need to get the pull-ups back in the game. How many years have you been married? Oh, go ahead.
On that point, though, as we get older, I'm finding that like recovery becomes much more important.
Yeah.
Recovery time, because we're not in our 20s and 30s. The recovery is key. Good sleep, giving yourself a break. Like, yeah, I could go work out 5 days a week, but is that really beneficial to me at this stage? Maybe a few days off for recovery is just as important. And on that note, I did stretch yesterday for an hour and a half. I have the same thought.
Yeah.
I got into the gym and I didn't touch a weight. I just went and I just forced myself. And like once you get into it, you get into the zone. It's like weight training or anything else. You just get into the zone and you tune into your body. And so I feel like I'm growing in that direction of finding that to be enjoyable. I'm kind of training myself to find it to be enjoyable, and because it benefits me so much.
And that's the long game, right? The long game is like not this 90-day sprint of do I have a six pack in 90 days, but am I able to, kick a soccer ball with my grandkid when I'm 67? It's that idea of like, okay, I'm going to be a grandfather one day. And what do I look like as a grandfather? Yeah. All right. How many years you've been married?
We're going on 19 years this past year. 19 years.
Dude, kudos, bro. Amazing.
Thank you.
Yes, we are about to celebrate our 20th, July 10th, and it is a long time.
Yes,
It is a long time. So, dude, to be able to have that accomplishment is massive, and what a good gift, a great gift to give our kids. How many kiddos do you have, and what are their ages, like the age range?
3 children. Oldest is 18, son. We've got another son, 16, currently, about to be 17 here shortly. And my daughter, 12.
Love it. Love it. And what is something that you love to do as a family? Like, where do you find yourself in that moment where you look around and you're just like, this feels right? What does it look like in that moment? What are you guys doing?
Well, I think the small things. We like to eat dinner as a family. It's been a tradition of ours. I give credit to my wife for kind of really instilling that at an early age with the kids and in our family, and it's stuck. I think sitting at the table and playing games is something we always do. Uh, so whether it's dice or cards, the kids love to do that. So it's just a chance where we're all together after the day. And it's one of those things where I know we'll look back and, once the kids get older and move away, we're going to really miss that.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just a few things we do just within our home all the time. Getting out to the beach as a family seems to be an easy one just because everybody is enjoying it and it's such a stress-free environment.
Yeah.
You don't have to try really to do anything. You can just enjoy and relax.
Yeah. Being outside. So
Yeah,
good.
being outside, for sure.
I love and hate this next question. I love it because it creates a level playing field for fathers. I hate it because so many of us men use it to size each other up. But
Sure.
what is it that you do out in the world to feed the family and provide value in the world?
Yeah, so I work in private estate management field. I was in living in the Midwest and worked privately for a family, managing their properties, and just recently moved back to Hawaii, where I grew up a few years back, and got into that here as well for a different family. So, uh, private estate management is the best I can put it.
Yeah. Love it, man. When did you embrace fatherhood? So, when you become a father, there's this, you're trying maybe, or you just hear the words, hey, you're going to be a dad. And then there's this 9-month period. And then the most beautiful, barbaric miracle ever happens. And then you have the baby, hold the baby, but then it's crawling, it's walking. And I find men embrace the idea of fatherhood at different times.
Mm.
When for you did it hit you that you're like, whoa, fatherhood matters?
Well, I think it's mattered since we've learned that we were pregnant. For me, I would describe it as it was just an instinct. I went into
Hmm.
autopilot right away. So there was no really second guessing myself or can I do this or am I right? Didn't know how to be a father, obviously, because I wasn't one, but it was almost like, okay, this is what's happening. Let's go. And I was all in from that point on.
Did you feel like you had a good example of what a father was supposed to look like?
I'd say yes and no. My parents divorced when I was 11. My dad had great qualities and some poor qualities. But I always looked at it like, you know, take what was, the great qualities that he had, and I can leave aside the qualities that weren't so great. He's a human being, and it's like the rest. He wasn't perfect, and it's all good.
Yeah.
So, as far as having an example as from him, yeah, I definitely had some things that I take, and I recognize the things that have been instilled in me by him.
Yeah.
Uh,
So what's something you feel like your dad did really well?
yeah, I mean, if there's his biggest one, he was a big time provider for the family. So providing wise, he was a workaholic. He was out there, doing what he had to do to provide. So I think um, that was his way of showing love for the family and
Mm-hmm.
providing for the family. A lot of the other aspects of fatherhood he may not have had, but that was probably the number one thing that he was able to give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can skip this question if you want, but what's something you wish that he did differently?
Um, Differently, I don't know if I would wish anything different. Um, maybe he could be more patient with my siblings.
Hmm.
You know, I think he was pretty hard on them. I was the youngest, so I probably had it easiest out of all of us. But I think that it left a mark on them.
Hmm.
So I would, would be my hope, is he would be more
So,
patient around me.
so do you see yourself giving that patience to your older kids that you wish you would have seen?
For sure. I think you got to allow for growth. We were all kids not too long ago,
Yeah, I know, right? We're not that far ahead of our own kids. It's funny.
I think of all the things I got into as a kid, and whether it's trouble or it's growing. You're growing up. You're naive. You don't know, and so I try to give my kids that space, and I try to help guide them in that way. I think that they're going to make mistakes. I've made mistakes. Everybody does. So, what was your question, Ned?
So I had asked if you feel as though, like you said, you feel like your dad could have given more patience to your older siblings. And so then sometimes we either see ourselves end up sadly mimicking the poor, or doing it differently. And it
No, I think
sounds as though in this instance, you've done it differently.
yes, I've done it differently, and almost too maybe too patient on the far side. Maybe a little too patient at times. And so that's probably just me. Like, geez, am I being too patient here? Should I push the issue a little bit?
Well, I've met your oldest son. He just graduated. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to bring that up too, but I met your oldest son a couple of times, and the words I would describe in just our very short few sentences of him picking up his sister is like a tenderness and sweetness, like definitely that he can show up and perform, and he's an athlete, but at the same time, like the way that it's very much how you come across, very, very like tender and sweet. Not that you couldn't, fight me if you needed to, but and so it comes back to that patience, right? I don't see him being timid, but I see him comfortable in his skin based on having a conversation with me. And it's like, wow, what else could I want? And I would hope the same thing if you were to talk to my oldest, who's 18 and just graduated, is that you'd find them comfortable in their skin. Like, I'm okay. I'm sad that you're leaving the house, but you're ready.
Right.
So since we're both in this situation right now,
yes,
that your oldest just graduated high school weeks ago. So did mine. How are you feeling? How are you processing this? What does the last 6 months look like leading up to this moment?
I feel like we've been kind of preparing for, it's been preparing for him to graduate. It happened so fast. It feels like once they get into high school, like that 4 years is the fastest 4 years that I've experienced of my kid's life so far. I've got another one graduating next year. I feel like once Maya gets into high school, it's boom, it's fly by. But last 6 months have been, I wouldn't say it's had a big impact or change. I think because of the individual that my oldest is, he and the prep that we did kind of last year and talking through what he'd like to do, and what does that look like. We've had a lot of discussion in preparation for this time. So, and this year, but I'd say like as far as he's the most independent child, work-wise, he's kind of got his own thing going on. He goes and does his own meal prep. He buys his own food. He pays for his own gas. He works 4 to 5 days a week. He's really strict on his diet and his sleep. He doesn't like to party. So for him going off, he does great at his school and academics. It's almost like it's an easy one. I know he's going to be fine. He's done a boarding school before his freshman, sophomore year.
Okay.
So it's not his first time being away. So for us, it's more just really happy for him, like happy that he's happy, because that was the whole thing is what do you want to do? Giving him all his options and having him do what he would like to do and not be limited by either finances or this or that or the other. And so we've been fortunate enough to put him in a situation that he's excited to do. And so we couldn't be happier.
Yeah, I think that the one word that stuck out to me the most that I'd love for dads to catch on is conversations. This idea that you've had conversations, which clearly it just came out of your mouth. That means that this has been happening since he was 5, 10, 15, right? And I think us dads can do a lot of talking. We can do a lot of, this is what I think. But to have a true conversation is you're listening to the heart of your kid while also guiding them, also speaking life into them, but also letting them make decisions. So when you get to this point of they're 18 and they're graduating, there isn't this like, oh crap moment, because you've been in conversation with them the past, 18 years.
Absolutely. And, it's one of the keys is having that space to have an open dialogue. You'd hope to have that with your child, right? Like have them feel comfortable to talk to you.
That's up to you to create, though. So like if you're a dad listening and you have elementary or middle school kids, like this is the time to cultivate that.
Sure.
And so it's, you hope for it, but you create it, and it's really up to you. And I'll tell you, and you give your response to this, Kenji, but I feel like I can think of a couple times in middle school, that 6th, 7th grade, where the kid messed up and I didn't react like a crazy person. I responded and had a conversation about the incident. So then they felt safe to be able to mess up in front of me. So I think that the 5th, 6th, 7th is critical in building a trust in that.
100%. It's interesting because I've always been really tuned into, or feel like I have, my reaction. I think they're looking at that all the time. What type of form of reaction do I have? What are they seeing? And so that having them feel safe to come and talk to you. So I feel like those conversations, the opportunities for those conversations are happening all the time.
Yes.
Whether it's like you shared with your son, with these group of folks, I'm sure there may have been an opportunity for you to have a conversation with him surrounding that situation that may have been a good opportunity for you guys. But yeah, with all of my children, there seems to be a lot of opportunities as they embark on new things, whether it's anything really, a new grade, a new sport, a new activity, something they've never done before. There's always opportunities. And so,
man, I love it. As you kind of made that list, dads, when your kid's making a transition from one grade to another or from one sport or something, I think for you to take them out for a coffee, an ice cream, a walk around the block, a drive, and say, hey, you're going from 5th to 6th grade. How you feeling? Hey, I remember in my experience was this. If you need anything, I'm here for you. And then just shut up, right? If they talk, great. If they don't, that's also okay. You're just letting them know, but don't miss those. And we're talking about like 5 to 60-minute little moments, right? We're not talking about set aside a week. This is possible. It doesn't matter how much you make or how much time you have. These moments are possible.
100%. And I think too, every child's different. Every parent's got a different style of communicating. And so it's got to find what's right. And I think it's the challenging part that maybe some fathers may run into, which I've run into as well, is with my oldest, is when they may not be so prone to communicate. When it's kind of like you have to try to pry stuff out of them. Like, there's something there. Maybe they're not communicating. You pick up on that. And you're like, okay, maybe the timing's wrong. Maybe your approach is wrong. But yeah, typically for me, in my experience, it's more timing. It's approaching at the right time, or opening that dialogue at the right time. And then,
so that's why I think it's, and I struggle with this, but I'll get my feelings hurt or take it personal. So it's like, dude, just get up to bat again. Just like if you strike out, just move on and then try again, but to not do it in a way that's like exhausting to your kid.
Right. That's exactly the point. Like the timing of it, finding that right time where it flows, if it's not forced or you're not, it's not stressful situation.
Yeah. And what I found too is and you've said this word a couple of times, but create the space. I think one of our greatest gifts as dads is to create space, and it's okay to have a little intention around it, but to also be okay with just seeing what happens. Like, hey, let's go surfing, or hey, do you want to go on a walk, or hey, and then just seeing what happens. Because a lot of times when the phone's peeled out of their hands or you've been outside for a little bit, they start talking about what matters most to them, right? They start sharing the stuff.
Totally. And that was where I was going to go to, is they naturally will they'll let you know when they're ready
Yes.
to kind of go to certain places, and they'll open up to you and they'll ask you questions, or they'll tell you about their day. And that's a great opportunity to just drop what you're doing and have a dialogue. It's a great opportunity.
So good. Well, this leads great into this next question. How would you describe the role of the father? Just in a few sentences, what is the role of the father?
Well, the role of the father, for me, or just in general, what I think
For you.
For me?
Yeah, for you.
I think for me, my whole thing is, since the kids were little, it's just like, just love them. Just pour love. Just love them. I think love can encapsulate a lot of things, but like, man, if I just love these kids, if I do nothing else, but love them, you almost can't go wrong.
And what does it look like to love them? So, and I know it's like, describe air. But yeah, go ahead.
So love can be like, for me, I have a providing role, guiding role, protecting role. Those all encapsulate that one thing. I do it all because I love them. Right. And so, when the timing's right, choosing to inspire them, or just by my actions alone that they observe. And so that, I'd say, yeah, love, guiding, inspiring, protecting, providing. And that's, I do it out of love, because I guess the opposite of that would be going in a selfish direction. And, doing things that might fill my desires or cup, or, although fatherhood really does do that for me, but we do tend to sacrifice things many times throughout this journey of fatherhood, because we know it's best for our kids. And so hopefully I can pass that on. Hopefully the kids recognize that. And
See, there's a beautiful component to fatherhood as well, is it's like we're carrying this torch of what it means to say love, to love a family, to provide, to care for, to serve. And so the words like, and hopefully I pass this on, right? So there's this idea that we won't be on this earth forever at the capacity that we are today. So the way that I'm showing up, is going to matter for my great grandkids, right? And I think it's an important component for us to remember, because it seems like we're so individual, our family, our life, or I should say my life, my family, that we don't always think about. Like, I don't really think about 2 or 3 generations before me, which is sad, right? And so I'm not, typically people aren't thinking of generations 2, 3 beyond me. But when you say that, it's like this realization that, the way that I treat family is going to get passed down.
Yeah. And it's at times, honestly, there's some pressure there, because it's such a big impact, right?
Yeah.
Man, is this that I'm doing, is this a positive thing to do? You leave such a big imprint, and it is such a big impact that you're balancing, or I find myself balancing, what I want versus what is right, or what am I passing down by making this decision? What's the impact that I'm making? And so, it's an interesting thing.
So this leads me to a question I ask, and we'll see what you think, but what's something that you were maybe stuck in your ways on, but you shifted your belief around it based on being a father, right? It's like based on your relationship with your kid's mom or your wife, or based on having an 11-year-old daughter or a 15-year-old son at times. Is there anything you go, man, Kenji was kind of stuck in his ways or maybe a little selfish in this area, and I shifted because of my family?
Yeah. Um, I think I'd say probably, let's see, what number of things there. There's actually one that I still have that
Hmm.
that I feel like there's an impact, or I always curious is I like nicotine.
Mm.
And so that's been something that I've liked for a long time. And so the kids are aware that I like it, they see it. And so I question that if it is going to be passed on. They've shown no interest in it so far. Um, but that's one thing that I do question now. But I do enjoy it. So,
I love that you bring that up, right? Because there's these things that like we wrestle with or continue to wrestle with, um, and we think about the impact, and then you go good, bad, and different for me, for them, but so many of us like wouldn't even say that, right? We wouldn't even admit to it. We try to hide these little things, which whatever, nicotine, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
was, but I love that you bring it up because I think that more men at least need to wrestle with things and then make decisions around them or not, you know? And I think it's good for you. I think it's good for your kids. Like I think too many of us are pursuing this like perfectly optimal life, which is like robotic and not real and unattached, you know, like it's like not available. So anyways, I love your answer to it.
yeah. Yeah, back to actually answer your question. I think in the past, maybe the times, how I'd spend my time, um, I think would be maybe when the kids were a little younger, maybe in a little more selfish ways. And I think I've been able to shift time spent into more, positive experiences for my family. I'd
Yeah.
say, that's been something that
Yeah,
has
it's
changed.
good. So what's something you've learned about yourself? Um, at all different stages of life, we learn different things about who we are, what we're capable of. What's something you feel like you've learned about yourself through the process of being a father?
That I I think being just naturally who I am is good enough.
Mm,
Um, I think um, I think the things that I've picked up from my childhood, I kind of tend to come through as you're a parent, as you're raising kids. So you start picking up on things that you've inherited.
mm,
So that's been an interesting journey. Like either it's what you do or how you react, how you love, how you everything that you do. So a lot
yeah.
of that plays into parenting. So I learned a lot about that. Um, I learned that uh, about myself. Having a partner to be a father with is really, those of us that have that opportunity or have a great partner to parent with. Because doing this by myself, it'd be a different ball game, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but I feel like part of being a father is the relationship with your partner, and that being healthy is just as important, if not the most important, to serve your kids and your family. Um, so that dynamic is, it's ever changing and it's evolving.
Yeah. How do you ensure that you're investing time, energy, resources into that component with work and 3 kids and all the stuff that comes with life? How do you ensure you're keeping that component
Well,
nurtured?
I feel like we need to do better on that now,
Hmm.
actually. I feel like we need to create space for that in a very deliberate way. Right now
Hmm.
we haven't done that. We've been more of a just go with the flow, and I think it would definitely benefit us to be more deliberate with that currently, actually. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just share on my end, we're about to hit our 20th year. And in some ways, I feel like this has been the hardest year.
mm,
And I was journaling 2 mornings ago, like just because we had a fight the other night. It just felt like, gosh, and I wrote down 12 milestones that have kind of happened in the last 3 months, like one daughter turning 16 and getting a car and another daughter graduating and like whatever, like all these things. And it's like,
wow,
no wonder, like, dude, your cup is full, bro. So you drop one little drop of something additional into that cup and it's like shit's falling apart. And so I was able to sit in that and go like, okay, so then talk to Sarah and I'm like, dude, we need to, and I love your word, like I would love to be the spontaneous, like, oh, let's do something today. But you have to be deliberate. And that was the word you used, is we have to be deliberate in this season of life to invest in, like you said, an important, if not the most important thing, which is our unit, so that then our kids have a stable peace, joy, all the things that come from it, right? So yeah, I feel that same way. That you got to be deliberate if it matters.
right, right, 100%. It does matter. It's a
Exactly.
everything.
Exactly. But it's one thing to say it matters, and it's another thing to look at your calendar the last month and go, that mattered. Right.
Right. And I'm more of like, I'm not always the most spontaneous person. So I see effort on both sides when I feel like, hey, let's do this. It's like, it's almost like the stars have to align the way that we've been doing
Mm-hmm.
it. And it doesn't benefit us that way. So yeah, I think we need to be deliberate with it and improve there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, good. Thanks for opening up that can. That's good. Okay, the other thing you said, dude, which I'm like, frick, if most dudes could get this, and if they got it, they could pass this down to our kids. But the first thing you said when I asked about the what'd you learn about yourself, you said to be naturally myself, like something around be naturally myself. And dude, we live in a world where we just want to be somebody else. Like, I wish I was like this guy at surfing. I wish I was like this guy at business. Whatever, like name the who, whatever. But if I feel like I'm comfortable in my skin and I don't think that the kids would be better off with the neighbor as their dad,
Right.
right? If I feel that way about me, I don't have to say anything. The way that I operate as a man or human, my children are going to follow in that, right? Where they're comfortable in their skin. Um, and so I want to put that out there. Like, guys, please find peace with who you are. Like, obviously, grow and become blah, 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 but also just be good with who you are. Be grateful for who you are.
So key. That's a great point to emphasize, Ned. I
And the
found
thing is your kids need you. They don't need me or Kenji. They need you.
right, and I think they appreciate you being you more than anything else. And
Mm-hmm.
kids are pretty tuned in. They've got some antennas, man. They can pick up on things, on everything, really. And so yeah, I found that to be a something that was important for me to be
Yeah.
the best that I could be.
Was there a point where you felt like, I've arrived, not arrived, like I don't need to learn, but I've arrived. I feel comfortable as a man. I feel comfortable as a husband and father. Or do you feel like you've always felt that way?
I can't really pinpoint a moment, to be honest. I feel like I've always naturally had a I'm typically optimistic and
Mm-hmm.
have a healthy confidence. So I've never struggled with trying to get somewhere. I feel
Hmm.
like I know that there's always space to improve. And I'm always open to that. And I'm humble enough to know that I don't know everything, and there's always something else to grow into. But yeah, I think just experience for me has been my best teacher, and it's been like, as a parent, experience has been my best teacher. In work, it's been the same way. You can read all the books, and people can tell you how to be good at being a dad, or be, good at anything really. But until you really get down and get involved and do it, um, you really, it's hard to really get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Life is full of experiences. And I'll just put pressure one more time on this question and see, would you pinpoint a person, a book, a season of life that gave you, let's say, confidence in your identity? Is there anything you'd pinpoint to go, this has given me confidence as Kenji? I am Kenji.
I think when I was younger, uh, you know, I, I played a lot of sports when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Those years were pretty formative for me. I did well with that. In turn, I ended up meeting a lot of friends I still have till today, where I've met through that time of my life, and it instilled, I think, a confidence in me at an early
Mm-hmm.
age. Um, so I think that kind of set a tone for how I went and approached adulthood,
Yeah.
and how I
The,
approached different things.
yeah. Okay. Because I mean, I've spent some time with you, and I feel as though it's like if you're the great athlete and you're still kicking ass at sports and whatever, right? Like you're confident because there's some purpose or things in your life. But it seems as though if God forbid you lost a leg and whatever, or were in a wheelchair, it seems as though your optimistic, confident identity wouldn't change. So, do you agree?
I would agree. I would
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, like you exude the confident, I'm good and comfortable being me. So I think, and I asked this question to a guy the track coach for Violet Spartan Track Club,
Yeah.
and one thing I asked him, I was like, "What's the purpose of sports?" Because in some ways, I think sports is like a religion in our culture, where it's like parents and people are like freaks about it to a degree that's not healthy. And he
Mm-hmm.
paused for like 15 seconds or 10 seconds, whatever. And he said development. And I'm like, damn, that's such a good answer. You're the kind of coach I want training my kid. And so it seems as though that was your experience through your sporting as well, was that it was character identity development, not I'm a good basketball player, I'm good at soccer, so that's my identity. Where if soccer's ripped away, you have no idea who you are, which I think a lot of 18 to 30-year-olds struggle.
Sure. I guess, yeah, your identity could become where you live, what you do,
Right.
what you wear, how much money you have, and all those types of things. Yeah, you're right. Like the confidence and development, that's a great word. Even some of the coaches I had left a mark on me when I was
Mm,
younger. Um, it's set, I think socially as well, right? Um, the friends was able to make. So socially, I was developed at an earlier age through
yeah.
sports, also socially. Um, so yeah, it set the tone for me. And I think later, as I got into, after I graduated and a little older, I went through a seeking period
Mm-hmm.
of seeking answers. So, you realize that, hey, everything we've been taught is maybe not as we've been taught, Wait a second. So once you kind of lift up the blankets, you realize that there's a whole nother world under there. So I've had a number of years going down the rabbit hole per se on my own discoveries for myself. And that, I think after that, I said, oh, okay, this isn't really what it's all about. It's kind of what I can make it. I can make it what I want to make it. And so that helped me just let go of like all the stuff that doesn't matter, going down that. But I think what prompted that, there was actually a few of our friends here that got into it at the same time, and it set the tone for their life as well on the direction they went. So yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of continued growth, pursuing, learning, and discovering with an open hand, right? With or open heart, whatever you want to call it. What's something? So, a couple last questions for you.
Yeah.
So this podcast, Fatherhood Field Notes, you're doing it where you just open up your life and share it with us. The mantra behind it is rebel and create. As men, we want to be warriors, we want to fight, but we don't want to just be destructive for the sake of destruction, but maybe we want to tear something down and create something in its place. So what's something you're rebelling against and wanting to create in its place? And it could be something as simple as, I'm rebelling against cell phones at the dinner table to create connection with my family, to some other kind of, pursuit in our culture or world that you want to rebel against.
That's an interesting question. What am I rebelling against? Man, it's a good one, Ned. I think right now I may be rebelling against being more empathetic to my partner, actually. I think there's something there that, if I were to be completely honest, I'd like to create more of that deliberate space. I'd like to create more of of a a, a sincere, deliberate support when needed. And I feel like I may actually be rebelling against that subconsciously. Like, not sure why, but that's honestly, I think that might be.
Bro, that's like exactly what I needed to hear right now. I have been journaling more about empathy. I feel as though empathy is a gift of mine. However, I feel that I haven't created enough margin in my life to be empathetic. And so when I get frustrated in the situation or the moment, I'm less frustrated because we're disconnected, and I'm more frustrated because this contradiction or misalignment is just getting in the way of what I'm trying to accomplish in life or at the moment. And it's like, dude, so that would be why I would be rebelling against this, is like, this feels in my way, which if I were to break it down to go like, dude, how do I want Brooklyn's husband in 20 years to respond to her? It's like, bro, freaking put on your big boy pants and suck it up and stop being a baby about this. So rebelling against being more empathetic to my partner is freaking exactly what I needed to hear today. So thank you for being willing to share it, because it's funny. You're like, why am I rebelling against this thing? Like, if I'm talking with my friend, it's easy to go, yeah, I will just go be empathetic. But in the moment, dude, it's hard. Like, our hearts want to rebel or want to be hardened. Yeah. Beautiful share.
Thank you. Thanks for relating.
I relate big time. Okay, is there anything I didn't ask you that you would be falling asleep tonight going, man, I wish I would have shared X, Y, or Z with a dad, or a story from my experience? Is there anything that we missed?
Well, I think as you've got with your thing, fatherhood's an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's full of ups and downs, ins and outs. I love that you're doing this, Ned. I love
Thank you.
that you're supporting fathers out there. I think that it's critical as well. I certainly enjoy talking to you, and I think it just my short time knowing you, Ned. It's kind of got me thinking more along the lines of having a support with other dads, and so I could probably leave with find your support, and be a support, because there's a lot of opportunities I found, just because it's now in my awareness to be a support. And it could be these small little ways. It could just be really something simple, just for someone to talk to, something to bounce something off of, reach out a helping hand. But you never know. We're all going through life, and so I think being a support is
everybody
great.
has a story, right? Everybody has a story, and that comes back to that empathy word. Is like we all show up doing things the way we do it. And it's so funny, the thing that sometimes I need to remember is it's easy to say, oh, well, if I was so-and-so, this is how I would do it. No, you wouldn't. You'd be doing it exactly how they're doing it, because it's their life. It's their story. Right. And that's where I think empathy is comes in to go, let me be who I can be for them, with them. Yeah. For the sake of them, not for the sake of me. All right, my friend. All right. Last question, legacy question. Imagine 40 years from now, you are peering into the homes of your kids. You're standing in a cul-de-sac. You're looking through the windows. You see something being played out. What is it you see being played out in those homes that just puts a huge smile on your face, and you just go, I showed up each and every day for them?
Wow. Well, like we started the podcast, if they're sitting at the dinner table with their kids, and that tradition of them playing a game, I can kind of see that peering in the window. I feel like that's made a big impact. I just, I'm all about hugs and love, and it's like if I saw just love, man, right? And putting that, your kids feeling comfortable enough to just put their head in your chest, and just be open with you in that way, to me would make me the happiest.
Dude, I love it. And I feel like I come across men who say, I rarely heard my dad say, I love you. And I rarely had my dad hug me. Those are two things, men, that we can get over ourselves and do. And one thing I do, especially with my son, is I never try to let go of the hug first. Right. And it's not like awkward too long. It's just like, let him be there as long as he needs to be there.
Sure.
And then move on. And it could almost bring a tear to me, because like even the other day, he leaned over and just like laid on me. He's almost 15, he just laid his head on my shoulder, and it just like, dude, that's what I want, that connection. You know what I mean? Right. And at the same time, he pantsed me the other day when I was in the kitchen. So there's both end, right? There's the goofy 15-year-old boy who wants to frickin' punch me, pants me. And then there's the 15-year-old boy who also wants to put his head on my shoulder. So you can have both. You just cultivate it.
Absolutely. Cultivate
Dude,
it.
Kenji, brother, thank you for being on the podcast. I've been looking forward to this so much, from the very first moment that we connected. I love that we live like down the street and our kids hang out, and we'll have many more conversations and connections. Thank you for being on here. Thank you for being the husband you are, the father you are, the man you are, the leader you are, for taking care of yourself so that you can leave a long-lasting legacy.
Thank you very much, Ned. Appreciate you having me on, and a big shout out to all the dads out there, all the fathers.
What another incredible conversation. I mean, from the conversation, there were so many nuggets, but the two things that I'm really walking away with are the openness that Kenji had around the rebelling against being empathetic for his partner. I am just feeling that this week. And I think as men, when we can open up and share that and express that, and even when you say it releases it from your heart. It releases it from the inside turmoil that you may be feeling. Turmoil might be too excessive, but hey, if you've been married for 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 years, you know the feeling of just that sometimes that hardened heart you can almost fall into. And we were designed to love. We were designed to live in a way that we can serve those that have been placed in our care. So that was one. And then the other one was the being naturally yourself. Now, you might say, well, I'm naturally angry, or I'm naturally anxious, or whatever. But that's not who you are at your core, right? Those are things that you may have picked up over time. Those may be, whether it's a wrestle or a struggle. But ultimately, the best version of you, the version that you love the most, is the version that your kids need. And so be that guy. Your family needs it. Love it. All right. If this is helpful, powerful, you like it, write a review, but even better, send it to a friend. Hey, I'm thinking of you. You're a great dad. I thought you would enjoy this conversation. Us dads need encouragement to know that we are not alone. And just like this podcast is a great example, this conversation, this podcast isn't because Kenji wrote, a book on fatherhood. It's because he engaged in loving our daughters well, right? We connected over our kids hanging out, and we both stepped up as fathers in just day-to-day life. And when one father connects with another father, there's this respect level. There's this knowing you're not alone in your community. So for you to send a text to a friend saying, dude, you're a great dad. I listened to this podcast. I think you might dig it. Check it out. It is a way for you to encourage another father who is on the same adventure that you're on. All right. Thank you to all you dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes Podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That's who your kids, spouse, and community needs. This is your guide, Ned Shout. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact, and let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.